The Vietnam War, one of the longest and most brutal conflicts in modern history, is remembered not only through battles and losses, but also by countless miraculous stories, extraordinary feats across various fronts, and many mysteries that time seems unable to explain. It is a vast tapestry woven with blood, tears, determination, and activities beyond human imagination. Perhaps few have ever heard the story of Company 915 in Buk Thai in 1972. On that historic Christmas Eve. It was a bone-chilling cold winter night, and the militia soldiers of Buk Thai were transporting relief supplies to the southern battlefield. When the B-52 planes appeared in the sky, the sirens tore through the silent space, yet those young soldiers resolutely refused to leave their positions. By the next morning, 60 brave individuals had merged into the earth, leaving only fragments of clothing and a torn hat scattered among the bomb craters. The strange thing was, despite enduring such a horrific attack, the logistics sector in Buk Thai remained steadfast, continuing to be a solid support point for the Trung Son fire line. Many survivors recounted that on that night, they felt a guiding hand, as if a sacred power was supporting them, helping them escape the bombed areas and narrowly avoid death. To this day, this story is still passed down by the locals as a testament to an inexplicable spiritual strength. In the southern battlefield in 1968, when the Tet Offensive broke out, Saigon became a blazing battlefield. Amidst the smoke and fire, a small commando company suddenly attacked the Independence Palace, facing hundreds of heavily armed defenders and tremendous firepower. Surrounded, out of food and ammunition, in the darkness of night, the surviving soldiers climbed over the walls to retreat amidst the flashes of gunfire. But astonishingly, most of them escaped the encirclement. Later, many of them recounted that, in the most tense moments, they saw white-clad figures appearing in the darkness, guiding each person to safety. The story of these white-clad shadows quickly spread, adding a mystical color to the history of Vietnamese commandos. It is also impossible not to mention the miraculous feats on the Cu Chi battlefield, known as the Land of Steel and Bronze. The Cu Chi tunnel system stretches for hundreds of kilometers, winding like a labyrinth underground, and was a nightmare for the American and Allied forces. Many documents record that more than once, guinea pigs, meaning American and Australian soldiers sent into the tunnels to scout, sabotage, or eliminate our troops, mostly never returned. The mystery here lies not only in the complexity of the architecture, but also in the guerrilla fighters' combat tactics. Many dark nights, during bouts of malaria or when in danger, numerous guerrillas recounted sensing the voices and images of fallen comrades, as if sharing the hardships together. The footsteps and breaths of the departed comrades became a source of strength that sustained them through many years underground in the hot and deprived conditions. One of the great mysteries, the enigmas not yet fully resolved, is the story of the secret of Turtle Lake. In the heart of Saigon, Turtle Lake is not only a cultural symbol, but also holds many strange stories within it. At one point, information circulated about a secret tunnel leading from the Independence Palace to Turtle Lake, used for movement and communication during the war. Many witnesses from that time confirmed they had participated in building or using it, but to this day, modern research and excavations have not found concrete evidence. However, whenever Turtle Lake and the mysterious tunnels are mentioned, people recall the ingenuity and strategic minds of the Vietnamese about the miracles that seem to appear only amid the bombs and warfare. On the majestic Truong Son mountain range, the historic Ho Chi Minh Trail stands as a testament to the iron will of the nation. Hundreds of thousands of people transported food and weapons day and night across treacherous terrain under the bombing and shelling of the U.S. Air Force. In particular, there were living shields who existed like a miracle. Many times mines, cluster bombs, or traps lurked, but in the most difficult circumstances, there were volunteers who rushed in, using their bodies to save their comrades. There is a story about a female youth volunteer who was wounded lying in a minefield, but still managed to shout loudly, warning her comrades behind. Thanks to her cry echoing through the long night, an entire regiment was able to stop in time, narrowly escaping death. These courageous actions seem to have a supernatural intuition, forewarning of dangers invisible to the naked eye. Another remarkable military feat was the battles on the Hien Lung Bridge, where the 17th parallel divided the country. Throughout many years of confrontation, the Vietnamese army built combat villages right on the banks of the Bien Hai River, despite continuous artillery bombardments from the other side of the river. What amazed many historians was that these combat villages were never completely destroyed. They continuously received supplies, transferred personnel, and evacuated the wounded overnight, all under the strict surveillance of the opposing forces. Stories tell that in the village, there were always brown-robed angels appearing at night, helping people and soldiers find paths to avoid grenades, carrying the wounded across the river, and then disappearing into the mist at dawn. Although these tales have a spiritual tone, they became a great source of encouragement for many soldiers in the face of danger. Speaking again about equally chilling mysteries, there is the legend of the shape-shifting suicide soldiers in the jungles of Southeast Vietnam. The enemy repeatedly recounted that whenever they encountered Vietnamese guerrillas, as soon as they came into view, the figures would vanish in an instant, as if in the blink of an eye. Special Forces units said they could hear conversations, giggling, even the smell of gunpowder, but after sweeping through the entire forest, they could find no one. The locals explained that this was thanks to secret paths, perfectly camouflaged traps, and the extraordinary camouflage skills of Uncle Ho's soldiers. However, for those who experienced the war, this story still carries a sacred spirit, a forest soul that helped Vietnam resist a much stronger enemy. Also, in the U Minh Ha Forest region, a place full of mysterious legends, some Australian and American soldiers recounted strange experiences when venturing deep into the swamps to hunt down main units. They said that although the sky was clear, they were suddenly enveloped by a cloud blindness, unable to see the way out, compasses spinning, and communication devices experiencing unusual interference. In the end, after struggling to escape, many days passed without them being able to remember details, as if time in the forest had stopped. Stories like these have deeply ingrained an invisible fear in the enemy's subconscious when encountering the sacred and treacherous forests of Vietnam. On the northern home front, many strange stories have also been told about dreams that foretell omens. Even high-ranking leaders have often mentioned this phenomenon as a kind of spiritual strength. There were mothers, wives, and sisters who dreamed of their loved ones going to battle, dreamed of seas of fire, rivers running red with blood, then suddenly woke up in the middle of the night and hurriedly sought divination for safety. There have been decisions to withdraw troops from battlefields or change attack directions based solely on a strange dream, which later proved to be exactly as warned. Although these stories are difficult to prove with scientific logic, millions of people who lived through wartime regarded them as omens, signs of a spiritual connection among the children of Vietnam. Far from the battlefield, when the war has become a thing of the past, many old American bases still carry mysterious stories. A typical example is the Khe Sanh base, the site of the bloodiest battle in 1968. Since 1975, people returning to this area have often heard voices calling each other at night and explosions echoing with no source ever found. Some American military experts who returned to survey the area also reported that electronic devices frequently experienced interference here, difficult to explain by conventional physical theories. The locals believe that the souls of thousands of fallen soldiers still linger here, creating an immortal, sacred aura of this once glorious land. Only war can give rise to silent heroes, the Saigon Special Forces soldiers with incredible abilities to transform. They could be street vendors, cyclo-drivers, electricians, or even elementary school teachers in the heart of the city. Amid countless dangers, they still delivered documents, supplied weapons, and organized disturbances within the enemy city. There is a famous story about a Special Forces unit cared for by a heroic Vietnamese mother. Despite continuous enemy raids, these soldiers repeatedly made spectacular escapes through secret exits under civilians' houses or underground tunnels dug from one house to another. Some even recounted that in critical moments, the elderly mother would quietly pray to her ancestors, and suddenly the outside would become unusually quiet. with enemy patrols lingering around the house before leaving. For those who were part of these events, it was a miracle born of faith, solidarity, and the tradition of hiding cotters like hiding seeds. It is impossible not to mention the story of the superhumans of Truong Son, the men and women with extraordinary strength, sharing secrets of carrying loads across streams and transporting weapons without ever feeling tired. The story tells of a female youth volunteer, slender in figure but able to carry up to 100 kilograms of food daily, crossing dozens of kilometers through forests and mountains. Stories of feet as strong as steel, muscular hands that even death must fear, have become an endless source of inspiration for future generations. Their strength did not come merely from physicality, but seemed to be born from resentment, from the belief that the country would have peace, from the deep affection sent from the rear to every bomb load, every ration cake along Truong Son. And there are many stories about friendships and comradeships so close that they cut their blood to swear an oath, share every drop of water, every last handful of rice, about soldiers writing letters asking the wind to send them back to their mother's homeland, and then those letters coincidentally finding their owners many years after the war when everything seemed lost. Someone recounted that when the small letter was opened, it still retained the warm scent of a hand, like a steadfast message in the time of bombs and bullets. Finally, the most mysterious and strange thing is perhaps the enduring strength of the Vietnamese people's will. During those historic days, under the rain of bombs and bullets, no one dared to be sure they would live to see the next day. But deep within each person was an unwavering belief that even if they sacrificed everything, victory would still smile upon this brave nation. Time passes, yet the mysteries of war remain, serving as a reminder of the losses, sacrifices, and thousands of untold stories. They are the mystical power that nurtures the spirit of independence, the miraculous feats that have created the golden history of the Vietnamese nation forever. And whether they can be explained or not, these stories are the flame passed down through generations, fostering pride and love for the homeland and country, so that anyone who remembers the Vietnam War will never forget the legendary feats and the mysteries that remain a sacred note in the soul of every Vietnamese person.